Why don't we have Congress officially vote on this? Because they know that the American people would not put up with this. So they do, we're just sending funding and arms and munitions. No, you are getting closer. You know that they're very close to reinstituting the draft for men and women?
Oh, yeah.
No, this is going to happen. And by the way, a vote for Joe Biden is a vote to potentially have your 20-year-old son or daughter, by the way, go into the front lines of the meat grinder against the Russian Federation.
But before we get into our conversation, my name's Eric Metaxas, and this channel exists to bring you a biblical perspective on today's news, culture, and hot-button issues. If you're new here or not, welcome, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you are notified when new videos get posted. Let me ask you the unpleasant question up front. I am really confused about House Speaker Mike Johnson. I do not know what in the world to make of him. I was at an event recently where I was happy to miss his speech just because I thought I don't want to ask him an unpleasant question. I don't want to embarrass him publicly. But I'm so confused, Charlie, by him. I had really high expectations for him. Am I mistaken in thinking that he blew it in a few significant ways in the last month?
No, I mean, you're spot on. And I say this with sadness, first and foremost. I don't delight in this. Let me tell you my journey with Mike Johnson. Right out of the gate, he became speaker, and I was upset that he was not willing to draw a line in the sand on spending. Let's remember, this was October, November, December. And I said, shut the government down now. If you guys do not do it now, it's going to get punted to the new year, and they're going to be nothing but excuses. And he told me, and his office told me, no, don't worry. The big spending fight will become in January. And that was a lie. Okay, let me just be very clear. There was no plan to do a spending fight in January. It was typical DC double talk. So then I said, okay, new year. I prayed for wisdom from the Lord. I'm going to forgive Mike Johnson. Maybe he didn't know what he was doing. So he texted me. I said, let's talk. So we had a 30-minute conversation. And I said, Speaker Johnson, I'm going to give you 60 days. And I'm going to lay off of you on the show. I'm not going to criticize you. You can do whatever you'd like. You could do what you think is best, and I will judge you appropriately. Let's keep talking. So we let that happen. And then he did not fight on spending. And then 3 or 4 things happened simultaneously, Eric, where I just let loose. Where he said repeatedly on 20 documented public interviews that he would not pass a continuing resolution or fund the government or do any of Biden's spending priorities if he did not secure the southern border. That was a lie. We do not have the southern border secure. He did not get extra money for the border, and yet he gave Biden and Jeffries and Schumer everything they wanted. Let me say that clear. Everything they wanted. Speaker Jeffries bailed out Mike Johnson because Mike Johnson is a Democrat Speaker of the House. Then Mike Johnson goes in a fashion where he did not have to do this. Speakers of the House do not have to go vote on bills, but he went down to go be the tiebreaker bill to make sure that the FBI does not need to get a warrant violating the U.S. Constitution, Eric, to spy on you, to spy on pastors, to spy on Christians. So this is a guy who invokes the name of God at every corner, every turn. He raises money in the name of God. His fundraising appeals, Eric, are, I just got off my knees praying for our country. Will you give me $20? I think that is nauseating, borderline immoral to do unrighteous things in the name of God. I hold you to a higher standard than John Boehner, who's a drunk, or Paul Ryan, who's a technocrat, or Kevin McCarthy, who's just ambitious. Let me just say one final thing, okay? So he lied to us on the FISA stuff. When he was on the committee hearings, he would be like, oh yeah, I think the FBI is overreaching. When he was just a regular congressman, he said, we need to get warrants for the FBI. He becomes speaker. Oh, no, the FBI doesn't need to get warrants. So Mike Johnson's stated position is the Fourth Amendment doesn't matter. He did nothing to secure the border, and he lied about it. And then finally, to add insult to injury, he gave more of a blank check to Ukraine so that more young men can die in that meat grinder. Somebody explain to me, what is Christian about lying, deceit, treachery, double-mindedness, open borders, child sex trafficking, destroying the Fourth Amendment? Where is the Christianity in Mike Johnson? I must be missing it.
Well, look, you're singing my song because this is, to me, when I wrote Letter to the American Church, I thought if I have to sum it up, the issue is Christians in America, the evangelical church, has drifted off into this heresy that it's all of what I say, what I believe, but it's almost like actions don't matter. And I think to myself, you have examples of the people talking about their Christianity, whether it's Mike Pence or Speaker Johnson, and it's so puzzling to me. I guess my question, Charlie, and I don't know if you have an answer, can you fathom his reasoning? In other words, I always want to put myself in their shoes and think, at least I can understand why they did this thing that I say it's wrong, but at least I have some sense of why. Is it possible that he did what he did because he would do anything to get aid for Israel? I mean, is that the excuse? I'm trying to puzzle
Yeah, I mean,
through.
that's the justification some people give. So two things. Number one, he loves being speaker. He has now said publicly and privately his mentor is John Boehner. Just so we're clear what we're dealing with here.
What?
So anybody out there, oh, no, that's a Politico article. John Boehner is his mentor, just to be clear. And so, by the way, just so everyone is clear, Speaker Johnson is a way worse speaker than Kevin McCarthy, and it's not even close. It's not even close. I can go through reason after reason after reason why that is true. Anyway, so we got a downgrade. But so Speaker Johnson obviously cares more about Israel than America. That has been his priority for a long time. He has basically said that publicly and privately. He's told members of the faith community, I will do whatever it takes to get money for Israel. I love Israel. You love Israel. But I'm an American first, and we need to secure our own country. Period. And Israel can defend itself, and you should never give money to a foreign country if it jeopardizes your own national security, which it doesn't in the form of Israel, but it does if you all of a sudden start have all these other spending negotiation concessions because you want money to go to Israel. But look, I will say this: Speaker Johnson is a polite person. As a dinner guest, he'd be somebody that would say all the right things and would be perfectly well behaved. And he would he would write a thank you note. Thank you so much for having me for dinner, Eric. He'd be a person that you'd want as a neighbor. He'd want, maybe as a church elder board. He is an incredibly weak person, and he is a dishonest person. Let me say that again. He is a dishonest person. I have gotten in fights with people about this, and I've told pastors, I said, well, why is it that he said 20 times that we wouldn't do any funding for the border? Was that just like political gamesmanship? Because we didn't get it. And they said, oh, well, you don't know how D.C. works. Actually, I do know how D.C. works. So don't try this argue from authority. I've been doing this for 12 years. I spent a lot of time in D.C. I spent a lot of time in the White House, a lot of time in the Senate, a lot of time in the House. And it's very clear. If he's just going to be a regular politician, that's fine. Then stop invoking the name of God.
You have a new book out called Right Wing Revolution: How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. I think you and I are in the same place in the sense that we're sanguine about our hope for the future if people will fight. If people will fight. You are in the thick of it, in the fight, in the front lines. What is your sense of what's going to happen between now and November? For example, do you think that I find it comical that people keep talking about how Biden is bumbling around and he's infirm. And I think to myself, look, whoever is running the country, it's not Biden, number one. Number two, they stole the election. Number three, they're evil. So the idea that he's kind of bumbling around and slurring words is a little bit besides the point. We're dealing with corruption that we've never seen anything close to it. And they will do literally anything to prevent Trump from gaining the White House. How do you think it's going to play out? Do you think they're going to switch him with somebody in the convention, for example?
It's hard to tell. I could see that happening, but Biden is running a lot of advertisements and has some things going in his favor. And one of them is that baby boomers are favoring Joe Biden over Trump increasingly. Younger voters are going towards Trump. Blacks are going towards Trump. Hispanics are going towards Trump. But older voters are going towards Biden. Again, that's not my own opinion. That is on over 100 polls that show that: Wall Street Journal, Axios, so on and so forth. So they might pull Biden. I think that they're going to – July 11th will end up being one of the most consequential days in American history. July 11th is the sentencing of Donald Trump. And Judge Merchan could put Donald Trump in Rikers Island that day and say 1 year in prison, 5 years in prison. He has full authority to just lock Donald Trump into a prison cell from then to November. Therefore, we need a vice presidential selection before that. I hope it's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a perfect, rock-solid, right, Eric? He would just be amazing.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So we need a VP selection before July 11th.
Yeah.
And we need to prep for chaos. I don't mean that chaos in the streets or violence or all that, but how will the country react if you put a former president and head of the opposition leader in a prison cell? I mean, Brazil did this. Argentina's done this in the
I guess,
past.
Charlie,
Other
let me
countries
ask
have
you,
done
though,
this.
are they, I mean, we know they're stupid, but are they so stupid that they don't see how that would backfire on them? In other words, do they have no sense of that?
It may or may not. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. They might think, hey, polls are tightening a little bit since the conviction. Maybe
Yeah.
a prison sentence will help. But they stupid or not, Eric, they're desperate. That's more important. These are desperate people.
Yeah.
They are paranoid that they're going to lose power. So why wouldn't Judge Merchan put Trump in prison? Why wouldn't he?
I feel like they're caught, like the left is caught in a death spiral. Like they can't pull out. They don't know how to do the prudent thing. They're doubling down over and over and over. It gets worse and worse and worse. And I just wonder how bad. I mean, the idea of putting him in prison, that would have been just utterly unthinkable a few years ago. Just the most preposterous thing in the United States of America. The fact that we're here tells us everything. What about the idea of a black swan event? I guess I was talking to General Flynn recently, and he fully thinks that that Biden would prefer World War III with Russia if that enabled him to get elected, to just kind of create a level of chaos that either we can't have an election or whatever it would be. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, Speaker Johnson would be on board for that. So, I mean, where's the opposition party that would say, no? By the way, why are we sending money to Ukraine? First of all, we should have $0 sent to Ukraine, but we don't do this out of declaration of war. Why don't we have Congress officially vote on this? Because they know that the American people would not put up with it. So they do, we're just sending funding and arms and munitions. No. You are getting closer. You know that they're very close to reinstituting the draft for men and women?
Oh, yeah.
No, this is going to happen. And by the way, a vote for Joe Biden is a vote to potentially have your 20-year-old son or daughter, by the way, go into the front lines of the meat grinder against the Russian Federation. Eric, I am not saying this lightly. If they declare war on Russia, I will not involve myself in that war. I will publicly become like Vietnam protester 2.0, right?
Absolutely.
I will encourage people to burn draft cards.
Absolutely.
And I know that sounds radical.
Yeah, well,
Russia should not be our enemy. Russia is not an enemy of the United States.
No.
This is a stupid proxy war of a small group of people in D.C. that still have the phantom ghosts of the Cold War. We could have allowed Russia into the West.
Absolutely.
We intentionally put them aside, and we expanded NATO because we needed an enemy in that region of the world.
No. What you have just said, I mean, I've talked about a lot in this program with John Zmirak. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand that when the Soviet Union fell, there is no reason even to have NATO. I mean, the whole idea is that it's the West versus the Soviet Union, the superpower that we've been fighting for decades and decades. Once that ends, now we have an opportunity to invite Russia and other former Soviet bloc nations into the community of nations to work with them. Instead, the neocons doubled down. It was good for business to have an enemy, and that's basically where we are. But the idea that people don't get this is astonishing to me. It's just astonishing.
It's because so many people, they still trust our government after COVID, after masks, after lockdowns, after it came from a bat cave in China, after Ukraine. And so if you trust our intel agencies, then you think it's the greatest thing ever. But look, understand this, that America runs like an empire, and we're not even good at that empire building. We're a bad empire at that. But what are we trying to spread? Old empires of the past, they used to try to spread Christianity or Catholicism. Do you know what we're trying to spread?
Rainbow,
we're trying to spread Pride Month.
Rainbow flags.
Yes, no, that's important.
Yeah, no,
it's
I know.
Not a joke.
I know that. Charlie, hold on. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, folks, we have to talk about this. We have to. This is central. I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's very deep.
Ladies and gentlemen, the book. Please get a copy. Right Wing Revolution. How to Beat the Woke and Save the West. Charlie Kirk's brand new book, Right Wing Revolution. We'll be right back. Pride Month is a satanic joke. It is a joke. People go along with it. And our government, and when I say our government, I mean, the deep state, the whole panoply of the unelected bureaucrats have been pushing this garbage on the whole world for the longest time, just like the Episcopal Church is pushing this garbage on poor African nations. If you want us to give you money, you have to go along with, pro-abortion and pro-gay rights or whatever is the whole thing. So that's where we are right now. That's what we're pushing when you talk about, America as a colonial power. That's what we're pushing.
Yeah, so it is the GAE, the Great American Empire. And that everywhere they try to now expand, they're trying to bring the rainbow flag to new nations. Old empires used to want to bring English common law or bring the cross or bring Christianity. Our empire is one of the LGBTQI plus agenda. It's one of critical race theory. It is one of these idea toxins that have captured the West. And this is important. That's one of the reasons why they're able to justify to themselves, the anti-war left, that we must fight Russia. And by the way, in the internal, let's just say, chatter of Russia, Vladimir Putin points to the West and says, you must send your children to go fight Ukraine because the LGBT agenda is coming to Russia. And the people of Russia rally behind that. The social issues are the real proxy war here in Ukraine. And NATO is the GAE project. It is the Great American Empire project. NATO really is the American empire, and we're not good at running it. Let me be very clear. We're like the worst empire builders and runners ever. We don't take the oil. We don't extract the minerals. We are the weakest empire ever. However, we have built this massive Leviathan that seeks neoconservative and neoliberals, that you should just call them neocolonialists, okay? These are people that seek to build a global empire around their liberal worldview, especially Pride Month, Transgender Day of Awareness, and don't take my word for it. At embassies across the world, U.S. embassies we're flying pride parades. I don't know if they still do that or they were doing that. They were flying BLM flags. This is the type of nonsense that we have seen for so long. And why is it now every Christian out there, like Speaker Johnson, he's like, oh yeah, we need to go spend more money on Ukraine. Oh, okay, so you are funding an LGBTQ empire against a country that is against that. How could a Christian justify that? Well, you are killing people. You're killing people in the name of a lesbian gay agenda.
And it's worse than a lesbian gay agenda. It's a trans pedophile groomer agenda more than it's a gay and lesbian agenda. It's become so sick. I just want to talk about the idea when we're talking about pride, quote unquote, in the rainbow flag. What we're really talking about when our government gets involved in this and is promoting this, it is unconstitutional in the sense that it's the establishment of a religion. They pretend that it's not, but it is anti-biblical. It is a worldview that is at war with the biblical view. So any serious Christian, any serious Jew is not okay with these ideas. So the government is supposed to be agnostic on this stuff. It's not supposed to take sides. It's supposed to say, let the people decide. We have freedom of religion. But in fact, they're pushing this. It's an Antichrist agenda that the government is pushing, and that alone is unconstitutional, but nobody's really framed it that way.
Because they don't state it as a religion, even though it is a religion. Right. And that's the point, is that they say, oh, no, it's not a religion. It's just an identity, or, it's marginalized people speaking out. We all know the truth. This is one of the counterfeit religions that has infected the West. And it is the religion of self-indulgence, the religion of LGBT, the religion of earth worship, the religion of the cult of anti-racism, the religion of scientism. We've seen those sweep the Western world at an accelerated pace. And that's why in my book, Right Wing Revolution, everyone should check it out, 45books.com, we talk about how we identify that threat, launch a counter-revolution to retake the country.
Right-wing revolution, you said 45 books, what?
Yeah, 45books.com. It is
that's the website.
Don Jr.'s and Trump's imprint. That's right, yes.
45books.com. Charlie, I know we just have 2 minutes left, so let me ask you, everything you said about Speaker Johnson, it breaks my heart. The question is, were we wrong? When Steve Bannon and Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene were saying we need to get rid of Kevin McCarthy, and a lot of people were saying no, no, no. What happened? What do you suppose happened?
I was a cautionary voice. I wasn't necessarily on board. I love Steve. I love Matt Gaetz. And I've talked to Matt. I said, Matt, I think that now we have all the facts. I would rather have Kevin than Speaker Johnson. I say that clearly. I would rather have had Kevin McCarthy now than Speaker Johnson. We'd have more seats in the House. And I'll say this, Kevin McCarthy used to take my phone calls. He would be very afraid of his right flank. Speaker Johnson made a bet. This is the most important takeaway. Speaker Johnson realized, The Eric Metaxas, Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirks, they're too much of a nuisance. So he then did a deal, and he did a deal with Hakeem Jeffries. And that's the point. Kevin McCarthy refused to ever do a deal with Hakeem Jeffries. Refused. He refused to ever, and again, I'm not the biggest Kevin fan in the world, but I want to be clear that he could have brokered a deal with Pelosi and Jeffries. He said, I can't live with myself if I do that. Speaker Johnson lives with himself. When Marjorie Taylor Greene did a motion to vacate to Speaker Johnson, Democrats bailed him out. This is not an insult. Speaker Johnson is a Democrat Speaker of the House. Democrats support Speaker Johnson far more than Republicans do. At our event, 75% of our attendees have a disapproval rating of Speaker Johnson. I was shocked it wasn't 100%.